Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of ICTV in Studio. I'm your host, Paige Hopkins, and I'm joined by Rob Harrington. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball recruiting. The team has had some good news in the last few days. Kenny Williams has committed to UNC basketball. So Rob, do you think this is all kind of a testament to tides turning with recruits feeling more comfortable in regards to the NCAA sanctions and some of the problems that the team has had recently?
I think it's at least an indicator that not everyone views the academic scandal in exactly the same way. Certainly a player who would be more inclined to leave after one season. If they were concerned about a postseason ban, then they may have to weigh that more heavily than someone like Williams, who most likely is a four-year player. For me, I think you mentioned it was good news. I think it's multi-dimensional good news because I think it more than addressed the need for a shooter, more than addressed depth for the 2017 team in particular. It goes back just to the fact that the program needed a lift. Losing out on Brandon Ingram, a player from Kinston, they recruited so hard for so long, did everything they could do. To miss out on him really hurt, and so you get Williams sort of in a rush. They jumped right into that recruitment. They made it happen. They beat out a very strong in-state Virginia program to do it. I thought it was just tremendous uplift for everyone.
Got it. And yeah, you said beating out the Virginia team. I think a lot of people have had questions in terms of Roy and his, recruiting abilities, and this kind of maybe starts to prove that wrong. But in terms of him and working with the team, what do you think he's going to add? What holes will he fill on this UNC basketball team?
I think next year it will be sort of a slow progression. Some of the more seasoned fans will remember Dante Calabria's freshman year in 1993 on a championship team, and Dean Smith brought him in slowly. He would play, but not a whole lot of minutes. I think the setup is very similar with Kenny Williams and the 2016 Tar Heels because they have established wing players. I think they're going to be a pretty good shooting team. Certainly that is not the albatross that it has been the past couple of years, or at least it shouldn't be. So I think Williams will play some, but I think you'll really start to see him pay off in 2017 and beyond.
Got it. And, 2017 team is so important because they'll be losing so many key players, Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson. And so in terms of him with the other players, how do you see him really just meshing with the team, maybe even personality-wise? I'm not sure how much you know about him, but talk a little bit about that.
I think he's a great cultural fit. I think he'll get along very well with the guys. In fact, I think that's one of the primary reasons they were able to land him. Okay. Some of it was just how he got along with the other players, comfort. Beyond that, I think he sets up very well within the Carolina offense because they've done well with wings who are spot-up shooters. Kenny is a catch-and-shoot guy. He'll be able to work his way free in space when people are focusing on other Carolina scorers. Now, along with that, I think he's the kind of player whose contributions will scale up as they have better players around him. Mm-hmm. If they have an interior attack and they have a point guard who can create for himself, that will give him even more opportunities. If he's being asked to create his own shot, I don't think he'll be as effective. But as long as they have sufficient surrounding talent, I think he'll be a very important and annoying component for opponents because he'll just be out there ready to knock in shots.
Got it. So in terms of JP Tokoto not coming back, do you think Williams' decision to join the UNC team will at all affect that hole that Tokoto is leaving, or do you not think he'll play in that role as much?
I still believe that Theo Pinson and Joel Berry will be the primary beneficiaries of Tokoto's departure. I mean, you might argue, and I'm not someone who would dismiss Tokoto's contributions, I do think it's fair to say that he could be a very frustrating player for not only the fans but also as head coach. And I think that Theo Pinson is ultimately going to be a better player than Tokoto. I think Joel Berry needed to have some minutes open up for him to really progress, make that sophomore jump. All that said, I think Williams could slot in for a good 6 or 8 minutes a game, meaningful experience. And in the event the team doesn't shoot as well, suddenly he looms all the more important. Right. But if he's playing 15 minutes per game, I don't think that bodes well for the team. I think ideally he would be in that 6 to 8 minutes per game role and then grow from there.
Got it. And lastly, do you think Williams' commit to UNC, do you think in the future this will affect recruiting at all? Maybe encourage players to feel more comfortable committing to UNC?
It certainly gives them some momentum. Mm-hmm. It won't affect the 2016 class as much because he's in the class ahead of them. Right. On the other hand, it probably won't scare anyone away. They aren't suddenly looking at a compromise situation with wings in 2016 because they need, as you mentioned, all these guys leaving, probably Justin Jackson as well. They'll need starters for the 2017 team potentially. But Williams solidifies things. He takes pressure off the coaching staff. I think it empowers them to sort of hone in their scouting a little bit more than they were able to do in April because they have so many needs to fill and just so many bodies to replace. Having him in there, likely for 4 years, is just a huge relief in addition to what he actually brings to the court.
Great. Well, you said the word relief. I think his commit has been a big sigh of relief for a lot of UNC fans getting, a big player going into this next season. So thank you so much for joining us for this edition of ICTV in Studio.